Truly, this is the Wideback Minnow designed by Patrick Sebile. Well, that's me. Hey, guys, one of our videos, this time to introduce the ocean-born Wideback Minnow. Yes, wideback, very squared to have a lot of air inside. The ribs underneath the belly to help for the best water flow on retrieve and all kind of action, including trolling. Well, I was looking to create a bulky minnow, you know, a meaty one, a minnow that truly mimics, well, the bait fish that very often predators are looking to feed on. For example, mullets. Well, guess what? You know, many of the minnows on the market are super slender. Well, there's very few bait actually. There are the sandils, there are the needlefish, the ballyhoos. That's pretty much it. You know, by far, most of the bait fish that lives in the oceans and also in lakes and river have more of a shape like that, or a brim, you know, flat-sided and tall. But many bait fish, for example, mackerels, goggle eyes, mullets, just to name a few of the key bait fish, are definitely more like this, you know. So that helped me not simply to mimic a prey, but that helps me for a given length, that guy is 6 inches long, to have a big enough volume so I have buoyancy. And buoyancy means I can put weight into them and they can cast. Because if you fish a slender bait and you use, say, a 12-pound braid, well, fine, you know, you fish a bit finesse, that's cool. But if you fish on the rocks and your target are good, solid fish, well, you may want to use at least 30, if not 40, 50, sometimes 65-pound braid. Well, if you have a bait of a similar length that's maybe a third of the weight of this guy, you won't make a good cast, and the distance quite often matters. So having a 6-inch long bait that's bulky as this allows me to have a floating model that weighs 2.5 ounces. A great thing, really a great thing about this bait is that we have this patent where the stainless steel bill actually is anchored in two places, one right below the nose and one right here at the chin. So thanks to that, the water flows super well. Believe it or not, but the bill, the thickness of the bill of any billed minnow is a key reason why some bait swim better and some not as good as others. Let me explain. When you have a very thin bill, when the pressure, especially on a relatively small size bill, not those big bills, deep diving baits, but on a small bill like this, the pressure when you retrieve or when you troll of the water on there is what gives the action. And if a bill is thin, you have a great action typically. If the bill is thick, the action is not that good because the thickness actually makes you lose some of the energy you're getting by retrieving. Now, a thin bill typically is weak and break easily, when a thick bill is much stronger. So both of them have their advantage and disadvantages. Right here, I truly have the best of both worlds. It's so thin, the water flow, we can swim that bait, including super painfully slow. And when sometimes you need a slow retrieve, for example, nighttime striped bass, for example, snook below a bridge or in some place with no current, typically a slow retrieve is best. So that's why that's one of the benefits. On the other hand, it allows so well the flush from the water together also with the ribs below the belly. Well, you can troll that bait all the way to 23 knots. So I'm pretty sure that as far as I know, there's no other minnow of that size that can have a true swim action when you reel it super slow and you can troll it at any speed between that almost 0.2 or 0.3 knots all the way to 23, which is great for wow, for example, over tunas. So that's why that minnow, that Wideback minnow, have a lot of benefits. Another thing is that it's so flat right here, it does increase and is part of the swim action, to the point that you can also take a cutter and a plain cutter and cut the bill, and you still will have some action. You may want that to fish shallower, so that's up to you. You just can cut the bill here with a plier and you will still have action because the line attachment is here and the front part of the body also will grab some water and give some action. That's great news for those of you who like bait with no bill, you know, and fish super shallow. So you can tell that the floating one is quite nosy. There are two options, by the way. We have the floating, and it shows with a blue sticker. It's also written on the back. You can hear the bead. The floating is 2.5 ounces. I will say typically the floating is your go-to in many situations. You want to cast and retrieve, you want to fish slow, fish in shallow water, you want to fish when you have an outgoing tide at night, for example, from an inlet, so you can cast, keep the bail open, let the bait go 150 yards or more, and then retrieve it, so you can reach fish that are very far away. The floating fit all those needs. Actually, for trolling, that's also the one you want to use if you're going to troll. Now, we also have the SLD. SLD means super long distance. Well, actually it weighs 1 ounce more. So from 2.5 ounces for the floating, you go to 3.5 ounces on the SLD. Definitely, that's a much better one when it comes to pure distance. And of course, if it's windy, you better cast a lure that's 3.5 ounces into the wind with your surf rod than you want to cast a floating one. So it also helps to fight better against the wind to still give you a better distance. So both models really complement each other. They exist in about a dozen colors to fit pretty much everything you're looking after. This is the Wideback Minnow from Oceanborn.